Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
Hi everyone, glad to see you all here. It's wonderful to be back. I miss this when we don't have it. It's such a wonderful food for my spirit to see all of you and to welcome you and to listen to your poetry and to feel this energy that comes into the room from all the poets and artists and music lovers getting together in a place like the Hamilton Club. Welcome to the Poetry Center. Today, the first person is Enza Anteno from Verona, New Jersey. Is that person here? I don't. Oh, did I say it correctly? I'm sorry, darling. Enza Antenos, Verona, New Jersey.
Quietly, she immigrated with her husband and firstborn from her childhood home on the Adriatic shore and her matrimonial home in the Apennine Mountains. Quietly, she sponsored her sister, nurtured her sister-in-law, and became the woman that everybody expected her to be, so far from the family that defined those expectations. Quietly, she raised 3 daughters, two of whom earned doctoral degrees, and supported their dreams even when she didn't understand them. Not so quietly, she celebrated marriages and the birth of grandchildren. She watched marriages dissolve and came to terms with lifestyles that were more foreign to her than the land to which she immigrated. Quietly, she watched history repeat itself as all her children left for states unknown, not to follow others, but to pave their own way. Quietly, she managed household finances, unhindered by her own education that ended after elementary school, and made home ownership possible and retirement abundant. Less quietly, she now tells her story, an Italian-Canadian story built on love, faith, and courage. Still quiet is her resolve and grit, knowing that the story is far from over. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because I forgot to do something very important. And it is to thank Sue Balick for coming in today to take care of the art sale and the books and to do all the other things she does so wonderfully well as the director of the Cultural Affairs Program. Smita could not be here today, so Sue came in to do all the work that Smita would normally do. And I just want her to know how appreciative I am of taking time away from her beautiful little farm to come here today. Our next poet is Patricia Bailey from Newport, Rhode Island. Patricia Bailey from Newport, Rhode Island. I actually flew here from Orange County, California.
Hi.
No, you have to pull it down, honey. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. This is my first time, too.
You'll be fine.
Worthy. Concetta longed to make it to America. Once she learned that she was born there, she felt she had the right to be in the land of prosperity. She loved her life in Giosa, but the hardships were becoming greater. She pleaded with her husband, Pasquale. He loved her immensely and would do anything for her. He could see that their future would suffer if they stayed in this war-torn and impoverished land of Italia. As I visit this place, I see the richness of the soil, the sea, and the abundance of wildlife. Its flora and fauna are optimum. I remember asking my nonna, "What were you really looking for?" She would tell me, When your children are hungry and money is scarce to get them even a piece of chocolate, and then you hear about families in America that have riches you can only imagine what that is like, you wonder if you are worthy of the same. Your grandfather and I felt we could take the chance. We were hopeful that our lives would be better. You begin to paint the picture of what you would like your life to be, each brushstroke creating its own outcome when given the guidance of your intention. I never asked her if they found what they were looking for. But my mind drew a line from her words to me. Her answer depended on my life and how I live it.
Oh, wonderful, Patricia. I have to say that I met Patricia in Calabria when she took my workshop in Calabria, right on the Tyrrhenian Sea, in this wonderful hotel. It was so amazing. Wasn't it beautiful? And the food was, we were both talking how wonderful the food was. Notice that's what I'm excited about, the food. Anyway, the next reader is Susan Balick from Newfoundland, New Jersey.
Good afternoon, everyone. The All Walk. I squish in mud mixed with dead leaves, eyes down, careful not to trip over rocks, branches, my border collie at my heel, the others scoot ahead. Scout comes back, clenching a prize, what looks to be a jawbone of some wild thing. The teeth tells me it's deer. Some all walk. We descend and my gaze lifts, the light like carnival in the quiet, kicks sideways through the space between naked trees, skids to a stop in front of me, suspended in the January air.
Next we have Svea Barrett. We have Rochelle Park, New Jersey, and I know that she lives in New York now.
Flashlight. So we're walking at night, 7 months after she died. Walking at night as we do in winter when it darkens so fast. My husband turns on the flashlight app on his phone when we walk in the street. He holds it in his outside hand as I walk near the curb. My mom would approve. A couple comes up behind us walking their 4 dogs, 3 Weimaraners and a white-nosed black lab that each have these glowing collars, like the glow sticks you get your kid at carnivals on the 4th of July. And all 4 collars glow the color of African violet blooms, my mother's favorite. Its furred leaves soft as a Weimaraner's coat. African violets don't blossom well for some. They're native only to Kenya. Grow them in the cold and they need flushing with clear water every 6 weeks and dusting with a small, stiff paintbrush while you support the leaves from underneath so as not to break them. Mom was good like that, cared like that. Butter covered every speck of her toast, which was never served cold. Buttons never stayed on the ground when the threads broke, and no threads swung from shirts or coats or collars after she sewed them stronger. She never forgot to send us the left-behinds after we'd visit with the kids. My baby blue acrylic extra long scarf Grandma knit for me, someone's worn but working phone charger or tiny Game Boy game, someone's precious Pokemon card, someone else's gray and paler gray Argyle sock. We'd wait for her packages, which would also burst with butterscotch, maple, or root beer barrel candies. The couple with 4 dogs catches up to us, and one of the Weimaraners barks at my husband. "It's your flashlight," the man says. "She thinks you took it. You see, she carries the flashlight." And he takes a small, slim flashlight out of his pocket and gives it to the barking dog, who shines it on his face, then on the ground, then ahead, and she leads them. We stand still for a bit. She carries the flashlight, my husband says to me, and turns his off. Yes, she does, I say. Up ahead, a barely audible metallic clink. She's dropped it, and they all stop and wait as though they can't move without her. And she picks it up carefully, and its narrow beam points forward, barely shaking with the dog's careful steps. And we all walk along behind her into the dark.
Next, we have Virginia Barry from Ewing, New Jersey. Virginia Barry.
Thank you. Paradise in a paper bag. A 2-mile bicycle trip up and over the bridge spanning the train tracks that led into town. 86 cents, almost $1, carefully carried and guarded to Journey's End, the special place, paradise in a paper bag. Candies, some 2 or even 3 for a penny. Black licorice and bullseyes, fireballs and bubble gum, nips and candy cigarettes, long strips of paper dotted with color, paradise in a paper bag. The 2-mile trip home, energized by sugar, to keep an appointment with Nancy Drew. Legs dangled over the arm of a blue chair, wrappers strewn here and there, paradise in a paper bag.
Okay, next is Joseph Chelios from Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania.
So this poem is called 15. Friday night, in their secret place above the garage, my brother and his friends in jeans and denim jackets were like workers after hours, lighting Marlboros, sipping Schlitz, when the door rolled open and my father, below, began talking to himself. How he missed the drift of smoke and sound overhead, I'll never know. Only that my brother, when those first words landed, spattered like drops from a turning sky, became a teen again as he ordered his friends to escape through the window, certain it was better to risk being caught with beer and smokes than to have his friends listening in to his father's patter, and him without cover, embarrassed and exposed.
Next, we have Douglas Kalura from New York City. Douglas Kalura.
This piece is entitled Baby Boomers versus D-Day Winners. During my tuna fish sandwich at the kitchen table, my father regaled me with his version of World War II. An ocean of mud, caked between my toes, jammed up into my crotch, packed along my eyelids. I'd never been out of Brooklyn. We didn't have mud in Brooklyn. When rain hits mud, mud gets deeper, and all it did in England was rain. I could almost taste my father's mud, which made the tuna try to swim back out of my mouth. He went on. On the plus side, I dated this English gal whose father manufactured cookies. If I'd stuck around, I could have been the ginger snap king of the UK. But the rice balls of Ocean Avenue called me home. My mother rolled her eyes and snorted into the dishwasher. In my mind, I built a diorama where soldiers charged up a beach and babies charged down the other side. There didn't have to be a winner. Everybody stayed put. Outside, driving the tractor mower, my father smoked his pipe, tossing away a match that set the shrubbery on fire. Facing the firemen was the only time I saw that man red-faced. My mother built her lasagna layer by layer from the ground up. My father, that piece you've given him is the size of a cinder block. Is he supposed to eat it or start building a house with it? My mother, he's my son and I'll feed him appropriately. Why don't you go back outside and set something on fire? Woods surrounded the house. A bunch of us did quaaludes, falling all over each other on a bed of twigs and crackling leaves. Never have so many traveled so far while moving so little. I kept thinking there was a hidden part of me I was supposed to know. It was like a squirrel on the side of a tree. Every time I glimpsed it, it scooted to the other side. Then it disappeared. I stared up at branches that divvied up the sky. Load after load of laundry, my mother never lost a sock. My father went to work and came home. A bunch of us locked a salesman in a closet and took a long lunch. That's the secret in life. Make everything fun.
Deborah Garish from Murray Hill, New Jersey.
The hat. A fish cannot drown in water, neither can my straw hat that flew from my head as I stood on the fishing pier to admire God's land, the woven straw Panama draped in chevron sash, its soggy threads. My own true nature is to set the hat free across the heaving waves as it rides each ridge of crest like a homecoming boat wandering other worlds. I am haunted. Let it roll along the country of sea salt to discover new continents. I sigh over its freedom from the changing light, from greasy smears of lotion, from its loss of shape over time. But no, an observant teenager sitting beneath a tent on the beach witnesses what she thinks is my grief. She paddles far on her raft, racing the sea to retrieve what appears to me an undulating pin dot of motion. Brings her friends, her siblings, a murmuration flying toward me on the dock. She waves the waterlogged sun hat high in the humid air, cradles it in her arms, and breathlessly presents me with the gift from the sea. How could I turn away, resist the offering, and not surrender to greatness under the sacred sky?
Next is Linda Hillringhouse from Verona, New Jersey. Also, her paintings are on the wall with mine.
First, I want to thank this force of nature over here, Maria, for all she does for poetry.
Thank you, honey.
And I also want to thank Susan Balick for all the shows that she mounts here. She really has an excellent eye. Okay. Like a real girl. He parked on a side street, shadows of ginkgo leaves. Was it moonlight or street light when he, the actual uncle of this story, took my hand, introducing me to the very instrument, animator of eggs, shape-shifting provocateur. And wasn't it darkly exciting to be so special at 7? Half flower, night bloomer, thou shalt not come down from that car in which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die like a blue iris, forever dying into winter. And no one will be able to tell from the way thou walkest and talkest like a real girl. Half flower, night bloomer, thou shalt not go into the land of malefaction alone, but with a pine cone in one hand and a wasp in the other, bramble for mother, thistle for father, and there thou shalt roam until the frost cracks open the land and you step out of stone.
Barbara Gold Kennard, Madison, New Jersey. Come that way, that's good.
Oatmeal cranberries. Today I made oatmeal, the real kind you have to wait for and tend against burn and ruin. It's better for you this way, steel cut and Irish, both of which I am not. If you get it right, the oatmeal might love you right back. Yesterday I made cranberry sauce. I would do it all over again just to watch those berries burst, red and luscious. There were times I bought the canned version, all gelled and uniform, but lacking in joy. But really, I am waiting to hear from my nephew, whose mother died last month, whose mother was my sister. He is an introvert like me. He may not want to talk. I don't know what this has to do with the oatmeal and the cranberry sauce and the way I need them to be real. I don't want to die is all. She was my sister every day of my life, the dancing flame of her extinguished. It was a peaceful passing, quiet and brutal. It was weeks before I could say she died.
Wonderful, Barbara. Next, we have William Kenny, Florham Park, New Jersey. William Kenny.
This poem is called Our Long Road. We rode together those thousands of miles over the hills and down into the valleys of our life. One day the road uphill got steeper, the space at the top narrower, the view a little hazy, but a glimpse of hope still visible while the fighting cells fought and the platelets did their thing. Too soon we were sucked back down the hill into a hellhole swathed in white sheets, filled with the smell of antiseptic, squawking PA systems, plastic tubes, beeping machines, and toxic chemicals which ravage your blood willy-nilly like some uncivilized genocide, decapitating good and bad cells alike, leaving you to fight marauding infections with only your grit and exotic antibiotics, prone to damage vital organs. We rode those miles together too, through your racking fevers, with me dozing in a chair, sensitive to the sounds of your struggle, putting cooling cloths on your forehead, praying for the regrowth of the fighting cells, you're getting out of bed, walking the halls with the IV stand, and coming home. Then we would climb another hill, like the one where we went to Tennessee to see Matt play baseball, eat great barbecue, and clutch hands on a tiny plane. But soon our road descended again into a place rougher, more savage than previous nadirs, impervious to both prayers and chemicals, save for the morphine. I rode into that morass with you too, but had to walk out alone.
Wonderful, honey. Somebody give him a hand getting off. Next is Diane Corey from Cresskill, New Jersey. Diane.
Donnie. 1. Donnie laughs that laugh, smiles his big smile. Donnie, that much-loved boy whom Selma cannot resist. How she loves to gather this son of her first American-born child into her arms, to watch him charm his grandfather and uncles and play with his cousins Dickie and Grace. What did she do to deserve such a blessing? 2. Donnie's belly hurts. Oh, it hurts, he cries. How hot he is. Whatever is wrong. 3. His appendix, the family hears at the hospital. We'll remove it in the morning, the American doctor says. We have plenty of time, he assures. The Syrian doctor disagrees. We must operate now. Get it out tonight. No time to waste. But the family lives in New York, in Brooklyn, where life is good and American is best. Why listen to an old world Syrian doctor when there are good American doctors? 4. Selma looks at her darling boy, darling Donnie. Who decided against good Dr. Haddad? Who said yes to the American doctor? She caresses sweet Donnie's cheek, cool under her warm fingertips. Sweet Donnie asleep in his casket in front of the unlit fireplace, and weeps. Thank you.
Next is Kenny Lickus, Cambridge, Massachusetts. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Lickus, that's all right.
Lickus?
My poem's Mood Indigo. I'm walking back to my car, parked on Mass Ave, after dinner with Lowe at the Plow and Stars. It's early Friday evening, still daylight, the sidewalk crowded as a mall on Saturday. Walking fast towards me comes a young woman, her eyes fixed on the phone she is speaking intently into. She's lovely and lithe, smaller than me, in orders of magnitude, thinner and younger. Her hair, short but intricately braided, bespeaks style, as does the play of colors in her bright blue blouse and striped summer pants. Her eyes dart over the phone toward me. Aging women friends speak of feeling invisible in public. I have learned whereof they speak. Did she see an old white guy, a beard, nothing at all? Ellen Bass, in her poem Indigo, sees a tattooed father pushing a jogging stroller, a jungle of indigo and carnelian tattooed from knuckle to jaw. And let's go an elaborate fantasy about this man's joie de vivre and how he would have made her a better mate than her dead ex-husband. She wishes he had fathered her daughter. Before I know it, this moment on the sidewalk launches a mini-series in my head. By episode 3, the young woman with intricate braids invites me to her apartment where I cook dinner and we talk all night. Half a block to my car. Is there a spot in this world where age doesn't matter, color doesn't matter, body size and shape, any difference you can name doesn't matter? I sit parked, wondering what transpired. When I get home, I ask my wife what she thinks. She kisses my forehead. Thank you.
Wonderful. Maria Lasella, Long Island City, New York.
Thank you. This is a great crowd today. And the work is like really phenomenal. So thanks for sharing. This is on page 117 if anybody has the book. I've been racing around trying to figure out where things are. A scar like no other. You can hardly see it now. Just a tiny strip of polished, tight skin on my left thigh. Actually, it's more visible than I thought, and I hope it never goes away. I recall the moment, the distraction, the thought that took me away for a moment into a mindless move that shattered a thick, old-fashioned milk bottle, the kind you see in the Lassie movies, that a person in a uniform, likely male, delivers to the door, or it might be rattling inside an iron grate basket that could hold a half-dozen bottles with the small, rounded necks and mouths like baby birds that would greet you with a thick, coin-shaped lick of clotted cream. Wouldn't that be nice if milk still looked, tasted, and got delivered just that way? But it doesn't. Which doesn't say much about the scar, except it was a super thick bottle. Back then, I didn't want to use the waxen containers we are all so used to now. No, I wanted my milk in pristine, clear bottles with soft edges, as if I lived close to or on a farm. Bottles that would be reused, which tells me something else about now. Why aren't we using glass bottles instead of piles of waxen containers that never seem to vanish? Flash backward. We were dating only a short while and already had a difference or two. Maybe it was because he tried to juggle too many of us at once, kids, car, job, and me, in too short a time, and kept me waiting too many times. Years later, it was me who left time behind, but at that moment, it was him. I was so annoyed, so distracted, that when I approached the kitchen counter, I hit that bottle squarely in the center of its belly, and a 2-inch shard of thick milk glass lodged itself into my thigh. Without a thought, I dislodged it instantly, while my thigh gushed all over the linoleum floor in my favorite kitchen of all time, with a window facing the small garden below. That scar took on its own character, its own history, its own pattern into the beginning of our lives together. Almost half a century old, highly polished, it will smile up at me from my left thigh long after you have lived, loved, and left. Thank you.
Miss Frances Lombardi Grahl, Clifton, New Jersey.
Hi, everyone. Thank thanks for listening. It's called Food Shopping with My Mother. She always bought a little at a time, and when I told her I preferred to do her food shopping, she refused, saying she needed to get out of the house, and if I couldn't take her, she'd find another way. Pushing the shopping cart helped her walk, so she'd escort me down the aisles in search of items on sale, had me reach up or bend down to retrieve what she couldn't. At the express checkout, she'd give the clerk coupons for items she had no intention of buying. When I reprimanded her, she told me to mind my own business. Money doesn't grow on trees. She'd search in her change purse for the exact number of coins, sometimes mistaken a nickel for a quarter or a penny for a dime. When I gave her the difference, she'd give it back, even though she was holding up the line. Her goddamn pride always got in her way. Out in the parking lot, she'd steer the cart as if it were a chariot. And once, to hurry her along, I turned my back and pulled the cart forward until her screams stopped me. A plastic bag got stuck around one of the wheels, and when the cart stopped short, she fell face down into a puddle. Before I could move to help her, someone dropped from the sky and lifted her in his strong arms. Never have I felt more admonished as when this stranger fled to his car without a backward glance at my mother, who stood upright and composed, or me, her caretaker, who never learned how to take care of anyone. Thank you.
Okay, Nancy Lubarsky from Cranford, New Jersey.
My aunt showed up last week on my Zoom call. You showed up last week on my Zoom call. I didn't notice at first. I was amazed you even had a computer. We were on gallery view, a sheet of postage stamps. There were enough of us on screen, so I don't think the others noticed you. But then we made eye contact. You smiled when I smiled. We were both muted. I tried to say hi in the chat, but you didn't respond. You looked younger than when I had last seen you in your luxury Florida condo that peeked out from a palm tree jungle. The resemblance to my father was more obvious. Your almond eyes, clear. Your once gray hair, now dyed brown and much shorter. Your teeth, straighter, whiter. It was such a relief to see you. You were my mother long after my mother was gone. I clicked on the speaker button. One strange face filled the screen. The rest of us disappeared. I tried to stay focused on the lecture, but it was hard not to wonder. Things hadn't ended well with my cousins. Unfinished goodbyes, swiped away by selfish sons who waited for you to die for your money. In a desperate moment, at your request, one son told you how to end it. Save your pills, swallow them all at once. But your aide overheard and saved you from yourself. I wanted them to move you to New Jersey, but they said it cost too much. They left you to die alone in a nursing home. I didn't question how you got here. I was so happy to see you. The lecture was ending. We were back on gallery. I noticed you were wearing my shirt, my earrings, and then you were gone.
Oh, wonderful. Let's welcome Elizabeth Marchetti from Toledo, New Jersey. We're always happy to see her. And she's a brave soul. She's always here.
Animal whisperer. Grandson Joshua, single, computer engineer, 32 years old, owns his own home, works from home since the pandemic of 2020, continues throughout 2021. A man of few words, but ask him how he built his own computer, and he has much to say. Joshua lies down on the couch, making himself at home while visiting Mom and Dad in the house where he grew up, legs stretched out comfortably. Queen Francesca, first cat, tortoiseshell in color, immediately spreads her furry self across Joshua's legs, purrs loudly, and proceeds to fall asleep. Disdainful of the other animals, the fraidy cat Fiona, who hides from everyone and everything, and the adventurous Frenchie, closet napper, kitchen climber, first to make friends with Sheba, the new puppy. They love Joshua too, when he is not preoccupied with Queen Francesca. Could they be drawn to him because of that full red beard? He is, after all, a fellow fairy friend.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks, Sue. And next is Lisa Cole-Nicolau from Fair Lawn, New Jersey.
Hello, everyone. I won't talk, even though it's hard, but thank you, Maria. It's just hard not to talk, but what a joy it is to be here. Burning my list of enemies. Tonight, after completing my evening's chores, I will rid my world of the loose ends that have pulled and frayed the tapestry of my 50s. Soon, I will say goodbye to this decade, to the years that have tested me, almost broken me, and also to the moments that got me closer to the person I wanted to be. If life is a long race, these people were the hurdles that made me trip and fall and hurt myself until I managed to get up and limp along. Before I cross the finish line of my 50s, I will sit down after dinner and write those names out in my very best penmanship. 1 Michael, 2 Amy's, an Aaron, and 2 Pauls. One who disrespected me, and the other whose betrayal shattered me into tiny shards. There are more, but you don't need to hear them all. You just need to know that tonight, after a lovely meal that my daughter will cook, I will sit at my beautiful dining room table and write the names of those I want to forget. And then I will use one of my great-grandmother's silver candlesticks to carefully burn the strips of paper. My great-grandmother smiled well into her 80s, spent her days carrying heavy bags of food to her ailing friends and neighbors. She learned how to say goodbye young, when she left her mother and stepsisters in Minsk and sailed in steerage at age 14. I like to think I carry some of her spirit in me and her moon-faced smile in my grin. Tonight, I will leave my heavy bag of grudges at the gate. Thank you.
Deborah Osinski from Highland Park, New Jersey.
Passover tables. Around the kitchen table, her grandmother chops the walnuts. Young daughters cut the apples. Her mother adds more wine. To know if sweetness is enough, they taste with one large spoon. In her mother's house, the Seder plate, white tablecloth, a vase with spring flowers from her father. Around her kitchen table now, her grown daughters chop the walnuts and cut the apples. She adds some more sweet wine. The Seder plate, blue tablecloth, a vase with spring flowers from her husband. Bowls of soup and songs, the quiet of her tears, as plates of brisket passed from grandmother and mother, sitting in chairs across from her. Their ageless faces, their rising voices, join the table, then quickly disappear.
Wonderful. Jason Craig Poole, South Orange, New Jersey.
Hi, gang. It's nice to be here with you all today. No complaints. Give me the knife, I said. I've got this. You go and talk to them. Watching him dice the vegetables for soup made me nervous. They wobbled on the board, and I was sure he'd chop off his hand. And besides, his parents were visiting us, and his mother had just finished a difficult round of chemo, leaving her with a weak body and a bald scalp. A Carly Simon song played on the radio, and I sang along. And at that part where her voice really soars, I slipped and chopped off the tip of my thumb. Just like that, sliced clean through, leaving a tiny fleshy nub on the board beside the pile of onions. I twisted a paper towel rope around the amputation's base before I bled everywhere. And then I popped the top of my thumb into my mouth to keep it moist and warm. The thumb tip was small, too tiny to reattach, so I spit it into my palm and I walked into the living room to sit and think for a minute. Did I need to go to the hospital? Could the onions be served? What would we eat for dinner? The tip of my thumb fell out of my hand and into the big red chair in front of our cat, who must have thought I was offering him a treat. He batted it back and forth between his paws while I stared in horror, and I could hear my mother-in-law's voice coming from our room. I'd heard her voice on the phone 4 years earlier when we drove through Washington Heights. Cancer, terminal, only a little time left. But there had been surgeries and treatments, and she'd even outlived her oncologist who called her his greatest success story. I never heard her complain, a fighter who faced the challenge head on. She walked into the room as I grabbed the thumb tip from our cat, and I froze like a child whose hand was buried in the cookie jar. "What are you doing?" she asked. I couldn't lie. I told her I chopped off the top of my thumb. And then I opened my palm to show her. She stared at me and squinted her eyes. I think she wanted me to cry. And after a moment or two of silence, she laughed. Thanks.
Maud Caroline Pitt, a total Borough, New Jersey. Where are you, Maud? I know I saw you before.
My husband is envious. Yes, my husband is envious. He's desperately envious because while he's thrashing this way and tossing that way, right side, left side, on his stomach, on his back, blanket on, blanket off, pillow punched, pillow fluffed, I'm right there next to him, sleeping like a very contented baby. No Ambien, no melatonin, no dab of oil of lavender on my pillowcase, no mug of warm milk before bedtime, not even heavy room darkening drapes and white noise recordings, just blessed, blessed sleep. Sleep that carries me to REM and deeply enough to dream. Sleep that causes me to awaken After 8 rejuvenating hours, refreshed and revitalized sleep that causes the poor, restless insomniac next to me to envy a deep, disquieted envy during every sleepless hour in the dark dead of night, as a trillion white woolly sheep leap over his picket fence, one by one by one.
Wonderful, Maud. Kenneth Ronkowitz, Cedar Grove, New Jersey.
The Homemaker. If Vermeer had come to my childhood home, he would have seen my mother at her sewing machine, at the window, not making lace work, but mending. It might be the knees of my jeans, or she was altering my father's work pants, or my sister's communion dress. She never seemed to be sewing something for herself, though she must have, but probably late at night when my sister and I were supposed to be asleep. Sometimes I heard the sound of her Singer machine. From my bedroom, it seemed to sing a song about how she cared for all of us, stitch by stitch, meal by meal, day to day, year to year. I paint this simple portrait of her at our window in saintly sunlight as she stitched us all together.
Aw. Judy Southwich, Lawrenceville, New Jersey.
Thank you. Judgment Day. Grandmother's coffin supplanted the couch against the back parlor wall. Bright squares of gold damask wallpaper revealed where pictures had hung. Flower displays lined walls, obscured bookcases, and flowed into adjoining rooms. Red sword-like gladiolas pierced the cloying sweetness of white mums and carnations. Family members kept a vigil until morning, when herds of mourners trooped through the house bearing casseroles and respect. I wiped my eyes on a handkerchief grandmother had embroidered. A woman called my tears selfish and said I should be happy. Grandmother's pain was over, and she was in paradise. Later, I reminisced with my cousins of when grandmother learned about the school dance. She rolled up the rug and taught us the jitterbug, a dance we would never see at our school dances. I chuckled as I left the room. Another biddy approached and wanted to know how I could laugh with my grandmother dead in the next room. It took me years to get over the guilt. Thank you.
Next is Margaret Sirocco, Montclair, New Jersey.
Dance class. Anger gurgles between them. Glaring, one yells, "You laughed at me when I cried at my mother's funeral. You were my best friend. I didn't laugh at you when your mother died." I pull them apart and say, we can't always explain why we laugh when we should cry. Hurt catches in their throats. They shout, shout, shout at me to get out of the way. How can you understand? Then it is over. They offer a sorry or two, but do not hug or smile, consent to sit in a circle. 7 middle school girls, quiet at first, but now they want me to know, so they tell stories. One speaks of her mother's abandonment, 2 talk about their mother's funerals. I say, I didn't know, and I am sorry. Another girl who never participates stands and moves, dancing to her mother's memory. She stops, stomps, lifts her arms, leaps across an empty stage. The others follow, crying, in a school auditorium where fury has been transformed into echoes of sorrow. I hold space with them until the bell rings. They pick up backpacks, zip hoodies, stuff their hearts back under their shirts, and begrudgingly move to their next class, as if tugged by long apron strings. Thank you.
Wonderful. Kenneth Silvestri, Nyack, New York.
This poem is for this coming Tuesday. I walked with my mother to vote on November 1953. She's holding my 7-year-old hand. One of the few moments memories I have about her not yelling. Leaving our apartment on our street, where I learned to ride a bike, play stickball, and be a lock key child. Half a block north to the end, parallel to the Susquehanna Railroad tracks, making a left on Sassafras Street, where I remember picking up a cake a neighbor baked, put it in my red wagon, and brought it home. We continued west 1 block, then left onto Highland Street. 1 block before Butler Street, where both my parents were homeborn 6 months apart in 1912. The firehouse still had remnants of horse-drawn fire carriages, a shiny gold pole for quick access from the barrack-type 2nd floor, where the firemen slept and cooked on their 72-hour shifts. There were the voting machines near a large red engine. She clicked her vote behind the curtain with one hand still holding mine, smiled, and we backtracked home. I asked her, "Who did you vote for?" She bent over, looked around, came down to my eyes. "Stevenson, but don't tell your father." She was a union worker at the ribbon factory. He was a cop, and so was the politics in the 50s in Paterson. Thank you.
Steve Smith, Pennington, New Jersey.
How to make friends with an Irish water terrier. Out of nowhere, he came bounding down the path at the Delaware-Raritan Greenway Park, lunging and skidding up to me like a whirling dervish, wrapped in a reddish-brown Berber rug. A handsome young Irish water terrier who leaped and barked exuberantly with a blue frisbee clamped in his drooling mouth, smiling as though he found a long-lost friend. He began to feint, dodge, and circle around me, tail wagging furiously, as if commanding me to lurch and grab for the frisbee, and I happily obeyed, as he teased and pulled it away just out of my grasp again and again, then dropped down in the grass, gazing up to check and see if I was enjoying it as much as he was, while I stood there panting like an old locomotive. Then he rose up and bolted away again, those coaxing eyes flashing over his shoulder as he looked back, waiting for me to follow, like the good friend he knew I had already become.
Next is Zan Blumtress, Montclair, New Jersey.
Thank you, Maria. This is Fluff. There are those who would say that fluff is only the superficial. Fluff is nothing but filler. Fluff is simply icing on a cake. And maybe fluff is, but fluff was not. Fluff was genuine and authentic and substantial. Fluff was something else. Like the added marshmallow filling to my peanut butter and jelly sandwich afternoons. Fluff was a complex and rich marble frosting on the cake of the hours spent playing in the yard and rolling around in that yard's grass with him. Fluff was my first real friend. Before I knew the word friend had a definition, before I even knew what a definition was. Fluff, he was my companion, he was my playmate, he was my protector, he was mine. His heart was mine, my heart was his, and I was his, and now I pine for those days before life took off and school and homework took precedence. I remember the days spent in the sunshine with him, spring and summer and early fall, and the winters before my 6th year. There's this great picture of the two of us in the snow. I'm squatting down, probably making my first ever snowball, and his furry and snow-encrusted self is all up in there with me. We were the both of us, young together, and discovering the world together. The entirety of Fluff's short life was spent with the only entirety of a life I had at that point. Sometime in that first year of school, it came to be that he was no longer. Winter and weather and 5 days of school a week found him at home and on his own, more than to which he was accustomed. And so he did what dogs do. He roamed and came to quickly find himself in a fatal scrapple with some other dog or wild animal in the woods behind our house. It bothers me now to think of Fluff, that beautiful brown and blonde and black and white collie in his final days, possibly feeling friendless and not understanding how he had come to be that magic dragon his little friend used to sing about while swinging on his swing set down by the edge of the woods. He would happily just sit there with Fluff, enjoying his little friend, enjoying himself. And once I jumped myself out of the swing and stuck the landing, we'd play a little more before it was supper time for us both. Thank you.
And last is Daniel Zahner, Woodstown, New Jersey. Tripping over my own tongue.
Thank you, Ms. Gillen. Happy to be here.
And happy to have you.
Thank you. I have to say my wife is here, and we were married in 1980. So when I look back at the banner, we appreciate what it takes to keep something going for 44 years.
A lot of work.
My wife Roberta in the back. Okay. Okay. The Japanese garden. He made a small Japanese garden at the base of a wall of loose rocks in the yard of his farmhouse. He'd built the wall when she was still alive. An evergreen tree grows in the center of the garden. There is a miniature pagoda and 2 circular flower beds of red and white mountain pinks. A stone dragon lizard eyes a stone frog. A 3-foot-tall, thick, dark brown wooden post stands next to the pagoda. He'd made the garden after his diagnosis. He rises at dawn and sits in a chair at a window overlooking the garden. He watches the sunlight brighten the yard, wanting to make the most of every day.
Wonderful. Thank you. Or to say your name again. Why don't I have you on my list?
Because I got added at the front door.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Thanks. This is my story, Sunday Sauce. A kid could lose an eye, a tooth, break a nose, fracture a shin, lop off a finger, suffer concussion at Sunday dinners at my grandparents' house in Brooklyn. We 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old grandchildren, whose second-generation woodworking skills extended to gluing model balsa airplanes, made boxes, fruit and vegetable boxes for Grandpa's produce carting business. We hammered, sawed, fought for the newest, sharpest, shiniest tools. Our mothers policed us from the kitchen windows. Watch your fingers, put that down. Stop hitting your brother or get inside now. They waited for the blood, praying for none, wondering if Methodist or Kings County Hospital was closer should one of us sever an artery. Sometimes we took apart boxes, sliding the claw ends of our hammers between wooden slats, pulling up and back until the sides of the boxes separated. Then we clawed out the rusty nails while an uncle took his place at the kitchen window and commanded, "A, botchagaloops." Sorry. "Don't bend the nails." Then another uncle, "Pick the nails up off the ground." And yet another uncle, "Put them in the cigar box in the shed." And yet another, "A, stunad. Put the tools away, pasta's ready." We flew inside to the kids' table, wedged into the corner by the pantry. First ones there got the chairs by the doors. Unlucky losers squeezed in the back end of the table, locked between kitchen cabinets, doomed to crawl under the table and zigzag between swinging feet in Buster Brown lace-ups and Mary Jane's if the bathroom called. No matter. We took our kicks and pokes. Grandma's spaghetti and meatballs were worth it. We kneeled on our chairs and battled for the ladle in the sauce bar. Never ever did we call it gravy. We did not twirl our spaghetti on our forks. We scooped it up, stuffed it in our mouths, and sucked it up the dangling strands. Spaghetti slapped our cheeks, tomato sauce freckling our faces and clothes. 10 minutes later, plates cleaned, we roared in unison, "May we please be excused?" Never waiting for an answer, we bolted for the back door, the shed, the tools, and got back to making boxes. At least until the cannolis were served. Thank you.
Now, have I gotten everybody? Did I call everybody? Jean, aren't you?
I'm not on the list, but I can read it.
You what?
I'm not on the list, but I can read it.
Go ahead. Jean Fleming from Warwick. Sorry, honey, I saw you there. I thought, how come she's not on the list?
Because I don't know why. Hi. This is called Clotheslines. I'm sorry? Oh, Clotheslines.
Great.
For some time, I've been drawn to laundry hanging on a line. A momentary pause, an inhale, calmness. To see it silent and still, slowly dripping wetness into the ground, drop, drop, drop. Or the wild dance, pinned tight against the whipping wind. I've had the need to photograph it, wonder it. Nearby, the onion fields stretch over the black dirt, and each house seems to wave with denim, still a bit stained at the knees. In Brazil, most laundry is red, yellow, orange, a festive flapping in the hilly favelas in contrast to their lives. In Eastern Europe, in the yards behind the rosemary hedges, shades more dark, navy, black, brown, heavy and inconspicuous. In South Africa, on the open settlements, clothes are lightweight and few and double as sheets, towels, shelter, and whatever last year's colors and fabrics were in the United States. And Italy, my last good look at a line of laundry. It was in the Cinque Terre while navigating a steep cobblestone street. I saw a handsome elderly man using a pulley system for hanging clothes. From his terrace to the one across the way, I wondered if it was by mutual agreement. I wondered where his wife was. I started taking photographs as he was hanging his whites, socks, t-shirts, underwear. When he got to hanging bras, he looked down at me from his balcony, and his eyes told me to put my camera down, that I was intruding. Yes, I suppose I do.
Oh, wonderful. Now, is there somebody else who's in the issue who forgot to sign up? Anybody? Okay, let's get a round of applause for everybody. What a great group of writers and what a wonderful reading. It makes me so happy to hear you guys and to love the variety of it and the power of the work and the honesty of the work. It makes me feel really wonderful. And, you know, I've kept this magazine going since actually 1978. I always counted it as 1980, but because that's when we got our first grant. But actually it was 1978. And it's wonderful to hear the work that's just gotten stronger and stronger as we've published this issue every year now for so many years. Thank you, and maybe we can all, if somebody has a camera, all the people who read can come up and sort of stand around me because I ain't going anywhere, and we can take a picture, okay?